Okay, so I wanted to make some reflections on some of these people from the Old Testament. Obviously, Jesus, Mary, and Saint Joseph, and Saint John the Baptist. Also, you know, Saint Elizabeth, Saint Zechariah. So first, I wanted to start with Saint Joseph, and I had mentioned in another video about how he obviously was suffering tremendously uh, at seeing that Mary sure looked like she was pregnant, and he absolutely knew he wasn't the cause of it. So why was that such a big, irresistible force meeting an immovable object? It's because, okay, so this is where you have to start thinking and realizing this is real life. Real things happened. St. Joseph and Mary spent time together. They spoke with each other. For instance, on the journey to the hill country in Judah, that was a 4-day journey. And they were together. And what were they going to do? Not talk all day long? Okay, so you just have to just bridge a small gap to realize when Saint Joseph spoke with Mary, the Holy Spirit was speaking back to him through Mary, because that's what happened to people. That's what happened to Saint Elizabeth when Mary spoke to Saint Elizabeth. Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. That's what she said. When your words reached my ears. So you have to understand that Saint Joseph experienced that a lot. Whenever he spoke with Mary, the Holy Spirit would speak right through Mary to him, and it's not something you can't feel. So he knew that. He knew God was coming to him through Mary. He wasn't aware that God was living in Mary's womb physically, but he knew that God was coming to him through Mary. Okay, he could tell that. Saint Joseph, it tells you, Saint Joseph was an upright man, a just man. Yeah, Saint Joseph was in the state of grace. So he experienced these things. He could feel it. He was given this light, and he knew it was coming from God, and it was coming through Mary. So the idea that Mary could be in the state of mortal sin and adultery was just not compatible with that. So that's an irresistible force meeting an immovable object. And also the humility of St. Joseph. So St. Joseph couldn't ask Mary about the pregnancy, because to do that would have been to entertain the idea that she might have committed adultery, and he couldn't do that. It was incompatible with what he knew about her. So that was between the rock and the hard place that he was at. It just was not possible. So anyway, then I also wanted to mention about St. John the Baptist. So St. John the Baptist was in the desert. It tells you that he's in the desert. God gives us enough information in the Bible, and then all you have to do is just kind of reason from there. So St. John the Baptist was in the desert from the time of the massacre of the Holy Innocents, because that's what happened. St. Elizabeth took him there to keep him from Herod. He never left the desert. So here's St. John the Baptist. He knows the Messiah is in the world, and he knows who it is. Yeah. So, most of us would find it hard to resist going and trying to find Jesus and see him. Yeah, but St. John the Baptist was only motivated by obedience. He wasn't told to do that. He just did his job. Because St. John the Baptist understood obedience. He understood that whatever he wanted to do wasn't important. That it was just to do what he was told. And he didn't leave the desert. And he tells you, till the one who told me to go and leave and start preaching and baptizing. Yeah, which was an angel. At any rate, so that, and then also you can also see one thing interesting about Saint Zechariah when his muteness was healed. He was filled with the Holy Spirit, and he made that prophecy. And he obviously knew that the Messiah was in the world too, because he said about his son that he would become the prophet of the Most High, that he would go before the Lord to prepare his way. So obviously he was shown that Jesus was there. All right. Also, I wanted to talk about the finding in the temple. That's a very interesting thing. Obviously, Jesus slipped away and escaped the notice of St. Joseph and Mary. And well, that's not that hard to do. Why? Because he's God. And he's got two people that their total focus is on God, because that's how Mary and St. Joseph were. That's what they did all day. They weren't like us. They weren't like, oh, I think I'll just do this or that. No, their focus was on God alone. Yeah, they were a little bit different kind of people than us. So when Jesus was noticed to be missing, I mean, that was very easy because Jesus could fill their minds with other thoughts and distract them with whatever holy thoughts he wanted them to have. So anyway, so when they found him in the temple, this is the thing that I think is very interesting, and it's like I often say that God baits us in the Bible to just, if we want to believe something wrong, it's very easy to do. Okay, so when they did find him, and what Mary said to him, son, why did you do this to us? Did you not know your father and I were searching with you with great anxiety, or whatever? It was something like that. Yeah, Mary said that. That's not something that wasn't made up. She said that. But the key in understanding is, how did she say it? How did she say it? What was her tone of voice? Was it a haughty and reproachful tone of voice? Like, son, how could you have done this? That's not how she asked the question, and that wasn't her purpose in asking the question. Because Mary was accustomed to being constantly and continuously led by the Holy Spirit, led by Jesus in what she was to do, and to follow whatever he did. And so when that was blocked from her vision, when he disappeared for 3 days, and she couldn't see that anymore, she couldn't watch him and follow him. So it was an honest question. It was a simple question. Why did you do this? What was his purpose? That's all she wanted to know. So she could understand. She just wanted understanding. Because kind of her understanding had been blocked off for 3 days. So she said it in a very, respectful and inquiring voice. Why? She just wanted to know. She wanted to have the grace of understanding of why he did it, which he also gave her. And it says he went and was obedient to them. He also gave them both an understanding. And when he said that, you did not know I had to be in my Father's house. No, they didn't know that he was going to be sent there. He knew he was going to be sent there, but they didn't. And they didn't know why he was going to be sent there, and he explained all that to them, why he had to go there then. But he didn't tell them in advance. And there's a mystery there too, why he didn't do that. But, so, yeah, these people were a little bit different from us as to how they did things and why. But that's why they're great saints. And right now, I know I'm not.